I went to go see some of the quote unquote black sites, um, flew over them from a helicopter. So just to try to get an idea, a little bit of an awareness on this. As a politician, I think the reason why politicians don't go into this is because you're apt to be viewed as kooky.
Welcome back to Change Agents, an Ironclad original presented by Firecracker Farm. Today, we're going to be talking about the UAP Disclosure Act, or Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Disclosure Act. My guest today is Representative Eric Burlison. Congressman Eric Burlison, who represents Missouri's 7th District, has become a leading voice pushing for transparency in how the U.S. government deals with unidentified aerial phenomenon. Since taking office in 2023, he has actively engaged in legislative and investigative efforts to ensure public access to information regarding UAPs. In August 2025, he introduced the UAP Disclosure Act of 2025 as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act. This legislation aims to mandate the public disclosure of UAP records within 25 years, unless the president certifies a clear national security threat. This legislation aims to mandate the public disclosure of UAP records within 25 years, unless the president certifies a clear national security reason for delay. Let's dive into the episode. Why UAPs? I mean, I would imagine most people don't run for Congress with just that one particular thing in mind, like this is going to be my core issue. How'd you land on this one?
It wasn't something that I did run for Congress and asked to be a part of and campaign for. I'd never even thought about it until I was on the oversight committee. I'd been in office for about 4 or 5 months, and then David Grush came around and was hitting the media circuit talking about you know that he wanted to he would what he was making an appeal to try to speak to someone in Congress. And I thought, I'm somebody in Congress. I can't, I'm a brand new member, but we reached out to Fox News and got a hold of him and had a conference call, referred him to others, including Tim Burchett and Jamie Comer, and we were able to get some. They decided to bring it forward in a subcommittee hearing, and that's how that started.
What are your what are your thoughts on the issue writ large? And by that I mean, what is it actually going to take, or is it even possible for the government to just lay their cards down and show the American people what they do know, what they do have, what they don't know, what they don't have?
Yeah, I think that it's going to take an act of the president, probably the White House, to want disclosure to the extent that he's done so with the JFK files and the MLK files and the RFK files. So we've had a tremendous amount of success with getting those documents released because not only do we have the JFK Disclosure Act or the Disclosure Act, but then when you had the president that issued an executive order that expedited the release of some of these documents, that's why we're learning so much. In fact, a lot of the documents that have been released are things that are embarrassing to the CIA. They didn't want those documents released, but it's a perfect example that it can happen.
I'll be honest, I'm not a full student of the entire history of the CIA. I interface with them enough in my previous role. I'm a huge fan of government agencies having embarrassing documents made public. I think that's part of being held accountable
Yeah, I totally
to a
agree.
degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, to a degree. Like I'm not saying like, disclose maybe don't tip all the cards. Like if there's something inherently secret and maybe an operation or a tactic or technique procedure, like let's contain those things operationally, but there should be a point in time. I think it holds people accountable. It helps regain the trust of the American public. Because I'll be honest, in my opinion, as an average citizen, the United States government has done almost everything humanly possible to erode trust in the citizens that they're supposed to be serving. So I think those are all net positive things if they obviously can be controlled in a manner that doesn't degrade the safety of the country.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I think that disclosure, I mean, given the framework of the government that we've been given, it's this is a strikes core to the idea of, does this government belong to the American people, or do the American people belong to this government? And when you have an intelligence agency that acts like it does not belong to the American people, that it does not have to be accountable to elected office holders, that it can keep secrets even from members of Congress, that's I don't think that that's the way that this system was established, and I don't think that that's good public policy, and I don't think that it makes for a robust United States or a robust republic.
I tend to agree. All right, so UAP. What were had you spent much thought on it or time thinking about it before Mr. Grush came around? Because I've listened to some of his testimony as well, and there's one thing you can believe in UAPs or not, but there's no way denying that man's level of belief and conviction. So I'm curious what you thought before interfacing with him, and how your thoughts have changed since you've kind of dove into being involved with this type of stuff.
Yeah, so for me, this was all just science fiction, watching, whether it was X-Files or Star Wars, Star Trek, that kind of stuff. I just kind of parked it into, or compartmentalized all that as science fiction. I'm a born again Christian, so my worldview, like, until I'd really kind of delved into this, was pretty. I just assumed that if God had created aliens, I mean, it probably would have been spelled out in the Bible. Turns out it may have been spelled out in the Bible, but at that point in time, I just didn't. I was not willing to even entertain the idea. I would say that today I'm a skeptic still. I don't necessarily believe until I see it, till you put the evidence in front of me and I can feel it with my hands or see it with my own eyes. Um, but and I agree with you what you said about David Grush. To me, what is abundantly clear is that David Grush was absolutely an expert on this topic. He was in the right position to know the things that he was talking about. And when we had meetings with the Office of Inspector General, for the Department of Defense, and then a separate meeting with the Office of Inspector General for the intelligence community, both of those agencies who is job their job is to follow up on and investigate accusations. They while they could not validate or verify the more sensational things, like that we have in our possession crashed vehicles and alien bodies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
While they couldn't verify that, they did say that the other claims that David Crush was making about over compartmentalization, that there are programs that are off books, that are not being disclosed to Congress, and they were able to confirm that, which I found highly disturbing. And so to me, as someone who, I believe that it's my responsibility to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars in this sacred republic that we've been given. I think that that's unacceptable, and that's why I felt passionate enough to get, very much involved in this. That and the secondary issue is that you had Ryan Graves come forward representing a lot of the pilots who had had near misses and
Yeah.
had multiple encounters in the skies with these things. To me, the question was, is there a safety issue? Do we need to figure out what this is, for the sake and the safety of our pilots?
You mentioned a word that is it's the hang up point for me, and that is the evidence. I and just so you know where I'm coming from, like, I wanna believe that we're not alone. I actually think it would be beneficial for humanity to realize we're probably not as awesome as we think we are. We're not the most advanced. Maybe we could just take a deep breath, come together a little bit. I mean, I think there would be some, absolute terror and horror, associated with that realization, but I mean, I want it to be true. I'm not saying I want, like, green men or gray men walking down the street. I don't think I'm ready for that, but I think society is ready, if it is the case that we're not alone, for that to be declared at least or confirmed. And I listened to a lot of the testimony, and a lot of it comes right up to the point of evidence. And that's the one thing that I have yet to see that anybody can provide. I was read into I was read into this program. I know somebody who was read into this program. They told me about something they saw, but there's no damn it, show me a piece of the spacecraft. I just want to see one piece. And that's where, I don't know. In your assessment, do you think that the government has that evidence and that they don't want to release it? I guess a better question is, what is the most compelling thing you have seen so far that leads you towards maybe we're not alone and maybe the government has some of this stuff?
I would say probably the most compelling is the firsthand discussions with David Grush and had watching him interact with others behind, in skiffs and behind closed doors. There seems to be a level of understanding of this topic that certainly makes me believe that at least he believes that this is true. So
Yeah.
but outside of that, I have been on this, passionate search to try to get my hands on the material. I went to Mexico City to see this object that was reported to be flying around Colombia called the Buga sphere, a metallic shaped sphere, and watched a team of scientists take samples of this sphere, from different aspects of it, from they took chunks of the metal, the surface of the sphere. They took, samples from these cores, that were a different type of material, and then those have been sent to labs, and there's been some preliminary results from those, that indicate that this sphere is, something like 12,000 years old, which is crazy if it's
Hmm.
true. Um,
Yeah.
I Now I didn't see it do anything, that defied physics. It literally was just like an aluminum, like, shaped basketball that that was just sitting there on a desk. So and to me, it looked like it was something that was handmade. So I'm highly skeptical, but at the end of the day, how are you gonna know until you go and see these things firsthand? And saw what they describe as these Nazca mummies, these mummified remains of what they claim are some alien race or some ancient race. I
Yeah.
watched the scientists take samples of those mummies, and I I don't think that there's been any results come back from those lab results, but, went on that. I went to go see some of the quote unquote black sites, flew over them, from a helicopter. So just to try to get an idea, a little bit of an awareness on this. So I've not closed the doors. I would say in this journey, a lot of times as a politician, I think the reason why politicians don't go into this is because you're apt to be viewed as kooky, right? So to me,
Yeah.
going down to Mexico and looking at the sphere, that was a very kooky experience. But until you kind of get to that, pull that thread until you get to the end, you don't know where that's going to lead. And so that's kind of my attitude is that I'm willing to explore all possibilities, but not at this point, not willing to jump to the conclusions that I think some people have jumped to.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are rapidly approaching the holiday season, which means that you need to be thinking about gifts. If you want to give a gift that actually has some substance, that everyone really loves, I'll highly recommend a product that I personally use every day and can stand behind. Firecracker Farm Hot Salt. Firecracker Farm is a sponsor, yes, but that's not why I talk about them. I choose to do so because it's a genuinely great product. It's fantastic, small batch, made with care, and it delivers. Delicious is really an understatement. It has the perfect heat to flavor ratio that you can fully control and elevates everything you put it on, from eggs to steak to chicken, or even as something as simple as pasta. The gear is solid too. It comes in a really nice stainless steel push grinder. It's well built and feels right in your hand. I have to say, it has a great tactile quality that makes it super satisfying to use. I'm telling you, you want this, and it makes an awesome gift. The best part is, when you buy one, you're supporting a small American family business, and you're buying something that's truly high quality that you'll use every single day. Alex and his family put a ton of love and dedication into this product. One small catch, you are not going to find this on Amazon last minute. They make hot salt in small batches, and inventory goes quickly. So if you want this, you need to make the move now, because they are going to sell out. So get your gift shopping done today. Head over to firecracker.farm. and use the code Ironclad, all caps, all one word, at checkout, and you're going to get 10% off of your order.
A lot of dark stuff going on in the world right now, and it's to the point where I don't even believe my own eyes anymore because I cannot verify what people are saying about all the political violence, the division. I partner with this production company called Ironclad, and we're doing an 8-part audio series on PSYOPs, on why foreign countries, governments, maybe even our own government would conduct a PSYOP on its own people. And I just think that this series is going to be extremely important because it's going to open the eyes of people on why these things happen. You can head over to psyopshow.com, order it today. I think you're going to get a lot out of this. Who's pulling the strings? Who's pulling them?
Phrasing somebody as kooky because they're looking at UAPs would be a great propaganda tool by an entity or organization that wanted to make people hesitant to look into it. And I think it probably worked way better pre-internet, pre-cell phone, pre-people being able to post their own information because the propaganda deliverers had a bigger microphone. So I could see an essence of that actually being weaponized against people looking into it. And I also, I was just reading in the newspaper, I think it was 2 days ago. It wasn't actually, it was on my phone. I don't even know why I'm saying I'm reading in the newspaper because I haven't touched a physical newspaper in years, but people get the point. It was talking about in New Jersey. There was, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a period of about a month where people thought we were either being invaded by China in New Jersey because there were appeared to be UAPs. And a defense contractor came out and was like, yeah, that was us. And we were testing it on the other side of a military base, and we can't tell you what it is because it's directly associated with the military contract. But there's no way the government didn't know that that was happening, and they didn't even seem to have informed the FAA. The government could have easily said, listen, this is a military technology that we're working on. We're not being invaded by aliens, but they choose not to do so, and that muddies the water even more. So I don't know
It
why they
does.
would do that.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Oftentimes, I think that the problem is this government is so big that the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. And so I really adamantly think that that's some of the case. A lot of times when people ask me, "Well, why haven't you gotten to these answers, or why haven't you been able to get these meetings?" My other response is never underestimate the laziness or apathy of a bureaucrat. Um,
That's so true.
it's so hard to find people that are motivated to be quick and responsive, and I feel that way about some of the there's a lot of members of the oversight staff that I love dearly, and they're great people, but really, this is a topic that, it's not great for their careers, okay?
It's
Because
fringe for sure.
it's fringe, and, for example, what's great for a staffer, particularly a committee staffer, is to work on a topic that leads to a lobbying gig, right? Particularly in, like, an energy sector or something that's that they can cash in at some point. The UFO topic is not one that anybody is helping anybody climb any ladder whatsoever. If anything, they're worried that their reputation might be harmed. Um
Mm.
and and so that's kinda why I think that it feels a little bit like we're trying to push a wet noodle, I is that it's not exactly there's not exactly innate drive to get to the bottom of this, and if anything, we do see some resistance from somebody, um, working through leadership to try to block us from whether there was an attempt by Arrow to give us a briefing at a TSSCI level, and that was blocked by I and the we don't really get the full answer. We just know that someone in House leadership blocked that meeting. So that could have been either the speaker, it could have been the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, it could have been the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. But some or any of those ranking members. It could have been Hakeem Jeffries. But someone in House leadership blocked that from happening, and that's extremely frustrating to me. So if I asked every one of those individuals, "Did you block?" And of course, they all said no. So then it's that which is why you can imagine my frustration. This year, last year, Chuck Schumer, and I never agree with Chuck Schumer on anything, and I particularly hate what he's doing with our government and shutting us down over this petty stuff. But I do agree with Schumer about disclosure of the UAP topic, and he filed an amendment called the UAP Disclosure Act, placed it on the National Defense Authorization Act, and got that over to the House, and then conveniently, House committee staff stripped that language off and passed it without the basically the UAP Disclosure Act, which is pretty interesting for when the House members and leadership are saying they don't have any problem with this topic, and yet the staff are working behind the scenes. One has to wonder, are the staff going rogue? Are they working are there plans from the intelligence community working into the or working with the staff to try to block some of this stuff? But certainly, or the elected officials certainly could be lying to us as well. Surprise, surprise, politicians might lie, right? So
Yeah.
that now this year I tried to put it on myself as the National Defense Authorization Act was going through the House and tried to add it as an amendment. And the Rules Committee staff said that it was out of order, that it was not germane to the bill. To which
Hmm.
my response is, how is this exact same language germane a year ago when it's not today? It absolutely is germane to the topic. We're asking the Department of Defense and the intelligence community who are being funded in this appropriation item or this authorization to disclose this information. It's absolutely germane, and yet really was not given a very good answer at all as to why that was not allowed to even be voted on. They wouldn't even let the amendment come to the floor to be voted on. I think because they know that it would probably pass.
That's, some of what you're describing is fascinating. What would be the reasonable explanation as to why a TSSCI brief like that would be blocked? If you could get somebody to say, "Hey, I actually did that," what's the reasonable explanation that would generally be associated with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think so it could be a lot of times it's turf. So you've got, let's say it was the intelligence chairman. Well, he might have thought, well, this is my territory. How dare these members of the oversight committee, delve into the things that the intelligence community is up to or getting this report. So that may have been the case. Oftentimes that can be the case. Um, and so politicians have egos and they like to protect their turf. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to push through. Now, the good news is that we have a new intelligence chairman. And so hopefully, and he's been very positive to me, Rick Crawford out of Arkansas. He's been very helpful. He seems to be very sincere. He seems to be a straight shooter. And so I feel like we have a better chance with him of getting access to this information than before.
Today's episode is brought to you by DeleteMe. We have talked a lot about people getting caught in timeshare scams, falling for pig butchering schemes, or getting those mysterious text messages that you have no idea where they came from. I've spoken with guests who hunt hackers and work to protect people's personal information. But here's the thing. Your data, your personal data, your name, your address, your phone number, even your relatives' names can be bought and sold online by data brokers, putting you at risk for identity theft, scams, and harassment. Now, that is why we have partnered with DeleteMe. Like the experts we've had on the show who actively stop hackers and scammers, DeleteMe works behind the scenes to remove your personal information from hundreds of people search and data broker sites. They do it continuously, securely, and without outsourcing. Plus, real privacy advisors are available for custom requests so you're never on your own. DeleteMe has been the leading service for removing personally identifiable information for over 15 years. They verify your data is actually on these sites before requesting removal, reducing unnecessary exposure. Wirecutter named them the #1 service of its kind, and judges, journalists, creators, and podcasters all trust DeleteMe to protect their privacy. Nowadays, this isn't just a nice to have. I feel like it's an essential. And DeleteMe makes it super easy. Just create your account, enter in your basic information on the dashboard, and they're going to do the rest. Within about a week, the first report arrives showing exactly what has been removed. Take control of your digital privacy today at joindeleteme.com/ironclad and use the coupon code Ironclad, all one word, all uppercase. You can also scan the QR code to get started. It's one of the few services actively keeping your personal information out of the wrong hands. You would be able to answer this question better than myself, but my concern as just a average citizen is that I'm worried the government might be in a place now where if something comes from the left or the right and it does cross the aisle and there is some level of mutual support, that it'll get killed because nobody wants to see the other side be successful as well. I worry that we have descended into a level of pettiness that we may not recover from.
Yeah, that unfortunately, that may be the case on some things, and I think that the border was a great example. I mean, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, those previous presidents and the Democratic Party used used to support securing the border. When it became a Trump idea, they suddenly turned about face and became hostile to something that they once supported. So I get what you're saying. The good news with when it comes to this topic is it seems to be fairly bipartisan, at least at this point. You have folks like Jared Moskowitz. Um, you have uh, Representative Garcia and others that we're able to work with, and they've been very helpful and supportive in trying to get to the truth as well. So I do think that at this time it is bipartisan. Look on the Senate side, you have Chuck Schumer working with Senator Rounds, and so it is bipartisan in the Senate as well. And so it'll be interesting to see if we ever do get a vote, and I'm going to keep pressing it. It will be interesting to see who kind of rears their head and votes this down. And I think that, if it fails, it fails, but at least the American people will be able to know exactly who to blame for why they don't have the answers to this topic.
Well, and who to ask some really hard questions to. Like, why would you vote that down?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope. Yeah. Can you tell me about the video you shared with the House Oversight Committee's task force that shows or appears to show a UAP deflecting a Hellfire missile?
Yeah, so this was an interesting video to me, and I was kind of balancing whether or not to release it because, you get these videos, you don't know if it's real. It could have been created by AI, it could have been, um it could have been given to me in a way that to kind of, throw water on the effort. So the problem is if I'd taken time to investigate, to turn it over, and then it may very well have been classified to the point where I couldn't release it. And so at that moment, it wasn't classified. I felt, um, that I had the purview under speech and debate clause to be able to disclose that to at the committee level. And whenever I did bring it up, I made it very clear that I don't know exactly what this video is, and I'm
Mhm.
not claiming something, you know, but this is an interesting video, and in the sake of being transparent, I'm gonna release this and let the public decide what this is, rather than have the posture of being protective and guarding. I'm an open hand and an open book, and so that's what we did. Um, and so to me, it's a fascinating video because it shows an object that's flying. You don't know what it is, and and then there's a Hellfire missile that comes from the side. Whenever I got the video, it had very, very limited information about it. The
Yeah.
location, the date, the um, the fact that it was being filmed off of a drone. Actually, there was one drone that was filming, the other drone had shot the missile, and so that's the basically the minimum information that I got. Other than that, apparently the video I'm told is longer than the video that was given to me. I've heard that from other people, it could be the same people. The problem is I don't know who gave me the video. So it was done completely anonymously,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of the situation. So, that's that's what we've got, and I felt like releasing it was being open and transparent, and it certainly is an interesting video because s some people say, "Well, it's a balloon." Well, then my question is, why are we shooting a Hellfire missile at a balloon? It why are we engaging in conflict off the coast of Yemen? Now, that could be that there was Houthi activity at that time and that
Yeah.
they were acting under, you know, trying that there may have been a safety concern, but, I don't which if that's the case, then why not tell the American people? What why keep that from the American people? Um, I don't they have no problem with releasing footage of strikes that hit their target. I don't understand why there would be a problem with showing this footage of something that clearly didn't hit the target, or at least didn't take it out.
Yeah, it's an interesting video. I've watched it a few times, and it's I don't want to say it's odd. I guess I'll just reuse the term interesting. It's interesting that it came to you anonymously with very little info, because I also think there are people out there who are just playing around with the narrative because they like to see people get riled up as well. And I'm not saying that's what's happening with this particular video, but I've watched enough videos from sensors and platforms where you can see that parallax, that orbiting of the platform that's filming it, and it can make it look like there's an incredible lateral speed when it's actually just the parallax. And we shoot Hellfires. I mean, we shoot them at abandoned vehicles, in training or in training environments. I could almost, I mean, are you, I believe that video said that it was confirmed to have come from Syria. Would you put 100% authenticity in that, or is there a chance that it would be in a location outside of Syria?
No, I don't have any I couldn't give you that authenticity.
Yeah.
It could have come from somewhere else, but that's the instructions that I was told.
Yeah.
A
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I could see a world where that's a training, like they're showing the accuracy of a Hellfire that clearly didn't detonate, but it was able to hit a balloon in flight and it was being, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that's what happened, but I can 100% see a world where that is part of military certification of a weapon or trying to certify some other capability. But if you want it to be an alien, you see that and you're like, "Pff, they're real. We're done."
So the story that I've heard from people outside of, basically just other people that after I released this video is that video apparently had been seen by a lot of people in the intelligence community, and a lot of people saw it live, and so which is why I think that if it was not in the location that was explained to me, that probably would have come forward.
Yeah.
So, so I'm all willing to receive any information about that object, but at the end of the day, um, the point one of the points that I was trying to make is that because we're being so secretive about this topic and we're not being transparent with the American people, you could take a video like that and everyone is going to assume the worst. They're gonna
Correct.
assume some of these other things, and so it's time that we start getting some answers so that because the truth is the American people don't trust this government anymore. They don't trust us to be honest with them, to be transparent, and I think that's my responsibility to try to change that. It's kinda like, wrestling a pig, but it's gonna be it's at least it's the effort that I'm engaged in.
Are you looking for the perfect gift for the tactical or preparedness enthusiast in your life? TechPack delivers professional grade gear every month, including EDC essentials, tactical tools, and training aids, perfect for anyone who takes their gear seriously. This December, TechPack gets even better. The December Plus box is going to be packed with exclusive training tools, EDC equipment, and high-value items designed to level up any gear setup. They are also offering special holiday boxes. There's going to be a Christmas and Black Friday edition, and they are going to be stacked with premium high-quality gear, making them the perfect gift for yourself or someone on your list. And right now, if you use the code Ironclad, all one word, all caps, You're going to get a free tactical gift worth $70, bringing your total value to over $400 for signing up. So visit TacPack.com, use code Ironclad, and get the kind of gear that doesn't just sit on the shelf. I want to thank our partners over at Ammo Squared. They've built what they call America's Ammunition Reserve. Basically, this is an ammo savings account. You can sign up, pick from more than 70 different calibers, you can set an auto-buy budget and either choose a shipping schedule, or you can just let your personal reserve grow. Over time, your ammo stacks up and is stored for free in their climate-controlled facilities in Texas and Idaho until you are ready to ship. There are no minimums, there's no extra fees. It works whether you have a small budget or you just don't want to drop a few grand all at once. Thank you so much, Ammo Squared, for providing this cool service and for supporting the show. So you've been in Congress now for, is it just over a year or just under 2 years? What are your thoughts? What did you think it was going to be versus your view of our government now?
Um, that's a good question. So I'd served in the Missouri legislature before in both the House and the Senate. Um, I had thought, because just watching Congress, that it was, in a lot of ways, it was hard to accomplish anything of good substance. And by and large, that's true. Um, what I've learned is that the only way to accomplish anything that's actually really good is to basically is to stand in the way and to be a fly in the ointment and make it difficult. And sometimes that means making your own members of your party angry at you. But for example, a lot of the reforms that we got in the one big beautiful bill, while they were on Trump's, checklist, they were not on the checklist of a lot of Republicans in both the House and the Senate. And so for whether it was eliminating the Green New Deal or making reform to cut the waste, fraud, and abuse out of some programs, including Medicaid, though that was we were told that'll never happen. And there were members that would fight us to the end. And some of them did. But because we held the line, and in some instances, really vigorously fought for the president and his agenda to the very end, we were finally able to get some of this stuff done. So it can happen. It just takes a monumental task to accomplish something, and a lot of guts. And it takes more than one person. It takes a team. I'm a member of a group called the Freedom Caucus. I like to say we're the Navy SEALs of the Republican Party. I mean, we're the group that is willing to go into battle, um, willing to actually, roll up our sleeves and engage. We're not there because we want to go to the cocktail hours or the parties, because we like the title. This is a small group of people, a band of brothers, if you will, sisters who are there to save the country. We meet on fly-in night, in a boardroom, and usually are whiteboarding strategies for the week while we're eating pizza and or Chick-fil-A. And at the same time, our other colleagues are out with lobbyists on K Street having fancy dinners. But that's not why we went up there. We went up there to try to work together to save the country. We're the nerds, if you will. And so I would say that is one perspective that I've learned that's unique and different from a state legislature. The other is that the job, unless you want to make it glamorous, it's really not a glamorous job. I spend a lot of time traveling. I'm either at an airport or on a plane, probably 20 hours a week. Um, so it's if you're trying to do a good job and trying to keep your family intact, you don't want to live in DC, which is why I sleep in my office. To me, it's not a place that I want to settle in, and so there's so if that gives you an idea, that's kind of my first impressions the one other thing, the final thing is that staff have way too much power, and it shocks me because um, on the state level, elected representatives and senators are fully engaged in the intricate details of the language of the bills that they are sponsoring and voting on. Um, And in committees, you're literally like redlining and inserting and making edits to legislation. That does not happen on the federal level. It's so removed, and it's
Hmm.
by design. They try to keep it's almost like they try to keep the member from delving into the details of the language, because I mean, I think that uh, and a lot of members are happy with that. They don't want to roll up their sleeves and um, get that involved. But to me, that's been a frustrating part for my journey.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you again for listening to Change Agents, an Ironclad original presented by Firecracker Farm. See you all next week with an all-new episode and an all-new guest. See you then.
And now, a preview of Target Intelligence PSYOP.
You know, one of the things that stood out is CIA's involvement in mainstream media and Hollywood. And I think a lot of people have suspected that over the years. You know, you see a lot of comments and a lot of discussions about that, but this makes it even more real because there's very specific examples of how they do that, how they approach, what the conversations are like, why they do it. And like we said in the documentary, this is just scratching the surface. This goes very deep.
And now, an exclusive preview of Target Intelligence PSYOP, Chapter 4, The Price of Admission.
Asking you.
Lady love to change the night of falling.
I'm Sean Ryan. This is Target Intelligence, PSYOP, an Ironclad original.
Maybe you won't believe what I'm going to say, but I swear it's the truth.
Chapter 4,
Go to the moon.
Hollywood's got you.
The Price of Admission. During the time much of the world was shut down during COVID,
Breaking news, just COVID-19
brand new
coronavirus, a new normal.
Dr. Matthew Alford was at his home in the UK when he received a strange delivery to his door.
I think it was literally in lockdown. You know, I was doing nothing in my life, as you can imagine, and I got a letter through the door, and it was from the CIA, and I thought, this is bizarre.
Dr. Alford is an author and lecturer of the University of Bath who specializes in studying the relationship between the entertainment industry and the U.S. military. After opening the envelope, Dr. Alford found himself reading the personal emails of one of the most famous figures in Hollywood.
Oh, why have I got a letter from the CIA? And why am I reading all of Ben Affleck's emails?
Then he remembered, 8 years prior to receiving the letter, he'd filed a Freedom of Information Act request, seeking to find out if the CIA had secretly worked on the 2012 film Argo. In the movie, which was also directed by Ben Affleck, Affleck plays a real-life CIA operative named Tony Mendez. In 1979, Mendez was part of an elaborate plot to evacuate 6 U.S. diplomats from Iran. After the United States Embassy in Tehran was taken over by Iranian Islamists, though 66 members of the embassy staff were taken hostage, 6 managed to evade capture and escape to the homes of the Canadian embassy officers. The CIA needed to figure out a way to get them out of the country while they hid with the Canadian embassy staff. Mendez's plan involved infiltrating the country by posing as Hollywood producers who wanted to film a big-budget movie in Iran.
I got an idea.
They're a Canadian film crew for a science fiction movie.
I fly into Tehran. We all fly out together as a film crew. I need you to help me make a fake movie.
So you want to come to Hollywood and act like a big shot without actually doing anything?
Yeah.
You'll fit right in.
Though the film was a hit and won an Academy Award for Best Picture, some critics were quick to point out the liberties Affleck seemed to take with the story of what actually happened. Many critics noted how the Hollywood film version seemed to inflate the role the CIA played in the rescue. The Canadian magazine Maclean's wrote, "The movie rewrites history at Canada's expense, making Hollywood and the CIA the saga's heroic saviors, while Canadian Ambassador Ken Taylor is demoted to a kindly concierge." In response to the criticism, in later versions of the film, Affleck would change the on-screen postscript text to read.
The involvement of the CIA complemented efforts of the Canadian Embassy to free the 6 held in Tehran. To this day, the story stands as an enduring model of international cooperation between governments.
What Dr. Alford wanted to know is if the CIA itself was involved in Affleck's artistic liberties with the story. Dr. Alford is the author of the book National Security Cinema, the shocking new evidence of government control in Hollywood, and co-produced the documentary Theaters of War. He and his fellow researchers frequently submit Freedom of Information Act requests to learn about the CIA and the military's efforts to influence the movies and TV shows Americans watch. As it turned out, the CIA was very involved in supporting Argo.
And of course, it was that I'd put in a Freedom of Information Act request in 2012 that had taken over 8 years to come through. No one knew that there'd only been actual contact between CIA and producers for that show until this information came through. So there are several of these shows that actually, whether they intended to cover it up or not, basically the information didn't come out that they'd been working on those, that they'd been working closely with the producers.
And, in many cases, the changes that the CIA and military branches were making to major blockbusters and TV shows weren't just minor tweaks to characters for accuracy. What Dr. Alford and his colleagues have uncovered is that in many cases, the military directly oversees key elements of mainstream entertainment. Dr. Alford uncovered that Affleck even visited the CIA headquarters to meet with key figures there in the lead up to the movie. However, documents Dr. Alford reviewed show that permission to film at the Langley campus was only given after several script reviews by the CIA. Emails between officials at CIA called the film a, quote, good news CIA story. In an interview with The Guardian leading up to the movie, Affleck acknowledged the primary similarity between what his job as a Hollywood director is and what the CIA does: deception.
One of the themes of Argo is about storytelling and how powerful it is, from political theater to the way we kind of communicate to our children to the way that we inspire people, and it's interesting that Hollywood and the clandestine services are both spend most of their time convincing people that something that's not true is in fact true.
He also added this half-joking observation.
I think probably Hollywood is full of CIA agents, and we just don't know it. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to discover that, this was extremely common.
But Affleck was already familiar with what it was like to work with the agency when he collaborated with them on Argo. He'd previously worked with them on the Jack Ryan film, The Sum of All Fears. His former wife, Jennifer Gardner, starred in the TV show Alias, where she played a super spy. The series was supported by the CIA, who worked closely with producers on it. Garner would even be featured in a recruitment video for future spies.
I'm Jennifer Garner. I play a CIA officer on the ABC TV series Alias. In the real world, the CIA serves as our country's first line of defense in the ongoing war against international terrorism. If you're an American citizen and seek a challenging, rewarding career where you can make a difference in the world and here at home, contact the agency.
But what Matthew Alford and his colleagues have discovered is the connections go deeper than most in the public can imagine.
The US military has worked with Hollywood producers for about 110 years or so.
As Dr. Alford explains, the military has long seen value in being able to affect how they are portrayed on screen.